Welcome to All Bodies on Bikes, the podcast, where all bodies are good bodies, all bikes are good bikes, and all rides are celebrated.
All Bodies on Bikes is a movement to create and foster a radically inclusive bike community. So join your hosts, I'm Ellen,
And I'm Marley.
as we explore the complexities of the biking world. Help us break down barriers and create the world that we want to see.
And don't forget that all bodies really means all bodies, not just larger bodies, but bodies of all sizes,
Ages,
races,
abilities,
genders,
sexualities.
and beyond. Come along for the ride. Well, let's dive in, and we're going to try and keep this as like a real quick hitter. Like, you're on your way to the bike shop, and here's things that you need to keep in mind when you're buying a bicycle.
That sounds great.
So I guess to start off, do you have any horror stories?
I feel very lucky that I don't. I have secondhand horror stories to where people
Okay.
go in and, if it's a man and a woman who are shopping for the woman, all questions are still directed at the man. Or the other horror stories I hear are just bad recommendations, unsafe recommendations from staff who just don't understand or haven't been trained truly in the brand and how it holds you, and
Yeah.
kind of what its limitations are. What you got?
I only have one, and it's from when I was looking for my first like new bike as an
Mhm.
adult. And so I went to this kind of a bigger shop in Seattle that sold a lot of brands and told them what I was looking for. And they just put me on a bike that was like, I was probably 75 pounds over the weight limit. And I didn't know anything about weight limits at the time,
Mhm.
but I, rode it out of the store. And to be fair, this was over 10 years ago. And so we were all riding very skinny tires at the time,
Mhm.
but it was
Mhm.
just like the skinniest tire little road bike that was just not appropriate for me. So, not
Yeah.
necessarily a horror story, but I've also like, even when I worked at bike shops, we would have a female presenting customer come in and the bros would be like, okay, Marley, you go talk to her. And it's like, come on, like
Yeah.
we should all be able to sell to anybody. But
Yes. So we're working through it, and I will say I think things have gotten a lot better. What that does introduce, though, is this idea that you kind of have to go in prepared. You have to go in
yes,
ready to really advocate for yourself, which I will acknowledge is exhausting.
it is exhausting. And I'd recommend going in having done your research
Hmm.
because that'll just make you a more informed consumer. You'll feel more confident trying out different bikes, asking different questions, that sort of thing.
How do you start that? How do you do that research? Either understanding what?
Yeah. So I think the first thing is to ask yourself some questions. What kind of riding do I plan to do? Because a lot of folks
Mhm.
are like, yeah, I want to get back into bike riding. But that is a very broad thing.
Mhm.
Thinking about more specifically, are you going to be commuting? Are you gonna try and get into gravel? Are you, wanting to just take it out on greenways and ride with your kids or ride with your kids to school? So I think that's the first step is narrowing it down. And that is not to say that there isn't one bike that you can do everything on. There are incredible bikes that will serve a variety of purposes, but
Mhm.
there are also bikes that will not serve a variety of
Mhm.
purposes. And it's like, oh, yeah, that's a really good downhill mountain bike. But if you try and ride that to the store, you're going to be pretty uncomfortable and sad. So, from there, thinking about what kind of surfaces you're going to be riding on. Are you going to be on concrete? Are you going
Mhm.
to be on gravel? Are you going to be mountain biking? And that kind of goes along with the first question. I think the next question is, what kind of cargo do you plan on carrying? Um,
Mhm.
and this can run the gamut from I want to go to IKEA and Costco and carry, basically have a car replacement
Right.
to I might carry groceries or I'm going to carry my kid or I don't plan to carry anything or I'm
Yeah.
going bike packing. Like just, and
That
it,
scale can really be 0 to literally hundreds of pounds.
yes, exactly. And you don't have to have like an exact list of this, but I think thinking about what your potential life looks like on the bike will help guide you towards uh,
Yes.
what kind of bike.
So
And then, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I do have a question, and we might get to this a little bit later, but I will say, like, where on the bike do you kind of need to think about where the luggage is going, where the cargo is going?
Yes and no. I think when folks think of it the more traditional way is just a back rack with little panniers attached.
Uh-huh.
And if you go back way into the archives of the podcast, we did a vocabulary episode, but panniers are basically like specific bags that are meant to attach to your bike.
Yes.
But you can also carry stuff on the front of your bike. I have a front loading cargo bike that has a big basket. They have bikes that you can put a front rack on and carry panniers on the front. You can do a trailer on your bike. There's lots of different ways and places to carry your cargo.
Yeah.
And that's kind of dictated by the kind of bike that you're on.
And two, if you're doing more road cycling, gravel cycling, like long distances for recreation, there are various places you can put bags and
Yes,
bob
100%.
and
Yeah.
bottles.
Yes. And honestly, the reason why thinking about luggage is so important is because there are bikes, especially the higher end bikes, that don't have mounting points. They are
Hmm.
intended to be like sleek machines that you don't put a ton of stuff on. And so if you intend to carry stuff or go bike camping, uh, make sure you're getting a bike that has those mounting points on it. We just jumped from like 0 to 95 on like the technicality side, but that's going to
Sorry.
happen the entire episode. No, it's okay.
We got to do it though. I don't know. It's a
It's a
natural
natural progression. Like it'll go back and
progression. Yes.
forth, but if
Well,
we lost you, we're coming back.
and I think I'm just going to stick with this topic though for a minute because the other thing that confuses me about weight limits is the bike itself will have a rider weight limit. It'll have a
Yes.
cargo weight limit. Those things add up to a certain number, but I can never remember. Well, I think let's talk about that. And then the thing that I can never remember is, do you include the weight of the bike in all of these things? But how do
I can
you?
never remember that either.
Okay, great.
Wait.
So that one you have to Google yourself, folks.
Yes, yes,
But
and because each bike is a little bit different in the way that they put the statistics. So backing up, bikes have weight limits. This is oftentimes dictated by the frame material and the wheels. The wheels are going to be like your first point of failure, I guess.
okay,
And so if you are a heavier rider or a bigger person, or you intend to carry a whole lot, and you're finding prohibitively low weight limits, you can look into modifying things. So you can get custom wheels, you can get stronger wheel sets that are designed to carry more things. But yeah, all bikes have weight limits. It can be a challenge to find those weight limits, which is where
okay,
the research comes in handy, especially if you're a bigger person. So if you're like, over 250 pounds, 300 pounds, you're going to want to do some research before you get into the bike shop. We are working super, super hard as an organization to train bike shops to know this information.
hmm
It is often hidden deep within a user manual or deep on a website. And so we encourage every bike shop to know the weight limits of their products, but they might not all know that. And so it can be really helpful if you're looking at a specific brand to know the models that will work for your weight. Does that
yes,
make sense?
it does. Are there any key terms that someone could use in their research to look out for?
Ooh, that's a good question. I tend to honestly just like Google or to search for the bike name and model weight limit or
Okay.
user manual. And then it typically takes you into a PDF. And then I'll just do like a control F and
Hmm.
search for weight limit.
Weight limit.
And yeah, sometimes you have to scroll for a little while, but fingers crossed you're going to find it. I will say there's a lot of brands, like especially the new direct to consumer brands, Electric being one,
Mhm.
Rad Power Bikes, Aventon, that are putting the weight limit directly on the product page,
Yep.
which is phenomenal. And I applaud those brands. Like, that is great. Thank you
That
for
has
doing that.
yeah, well, and that was really helpful while we were shopping because we just have 2 different weights between me and my husband who are the primary riders, but then also we have to account for my kid is currently this weight, but we want this to last for several years, and what's that look like, and do we wanna bring a friend? Do we wanna bring a whatever? So that and did you're right, it did make it much easier to scan because it was just listed there in the specs. I think that's probably changing faster within the cargo bike area because that's
Exactly.
what you're trying to do with the bike. But hopefully, I think what you said though is really helpful in case anybody's just kind of not used to doing product research. Like a PDF is not the end of the road. Keep going.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
and don't rely on ChatGPT for this.
Oh my God.
I'm sure there's good information out there, but please do your own research, especially if you are a heavier rider or you plan to carry your kids. Making sure that you pick equipment that's going to work for you is really, really important. So,
Yeah. Agreed.
Okay, should we talk about different types of shops or what to be prepared for when you get to the shop?
I think so. Is that all we wanted to hit with gear? Because I think that as long as that has a nice bow on it, then yeah, let's go on. What should we expect when you walk through the door?
Oh gosh, well, you should expect to be treated with dignity and respect. And if you're not greeted when you walk in the store, turn your happy little butt right around.
Unless
I
they're
mean,
very busy. It's the holiday season, Marley.
exactly. I shouldn't be rude, but when you walk into a shop, you want to it it's going to be an ongoing relationship. Hopefully
Mhm,
you're going to buy your bike at the shop, you're going to get accessories. I have like 3 or 4 different bike shops already in Portland that I have made relationships with. Because there's a cargo bike shop, there's a road bike shop, and so making sure you feel comfortable going to the shop and chatting with them. So when you go there, you want to be prepared to test ride. You know, do your research, maybe figure out if that shop carries the kind of bike that you're looking for. This kind of bleeds into our next topic, but there are different kinds of bike shops. You know,
mm,
there are big box stores that only carry one brand. You know, I'm thinking Specialized or Trek.
mhm,
They will have lots of different types of bikes within their brand. So they'll have mountain bikes, they'll have road bikes, they'll have gravel bikes, they'll have e-bikes. But if you want to try across different brands, which I always recommend, you know, there's other independent shops that will often carry a bunch of brands. REI has lots of great options for bikes and test riding. Um, I'm not going to diss Walmart here because they are probably one of the biggest retailers of bikes in the United
mhm.
States. You cannot test ride bikes at Walmart, I don't think.
I don't think so.
But
No.
if that's what's in, and maybe we should spend some time talking specifically about folks who really do have a limited budget and maybe some alternatives to Walmart.
Okay,
Um, but let's circle back to that if that's okay.
we can.
Um, so yeah, I would say come to the bike shop ready to ride, wearing comfortable pants. You don't need to be like fully kitted out, wearing your chamois. But I would say, you know, stretchy pants.
Mhm.
Leggings are great for folks who wear leggings because they're not going to get caught in the chain. Jeans are also fine, especially if you plan to ride in jeans.
Yeah.
I would say show up in what you plan to ride on, especially comfy shoes. Um, if you have your own helmet, I'd encourage you to bring that. Shops will have loaner helmets, but I just get kind of grossed out by that. So bring your own
Mm,
helmet.
yeah.
Um, and then just show up curious. I would also say this might sound silly, but make sure you've eaten a snack before you go and drink some water and use the bathroom because the bike buying process can take a little while.
I did
Because,
wanna go ahead, sorry.
no, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, like you said, it takes a minute, and so I was curious, what how much time do you think you should dedicate to this? Is this a Saturday? Is this 4 or 5 shops? What are you how deep does someone need to go into the physical trying on a bike process?
Yeah, oh man, I think that's so personal. I'm the kind of person where I get on a bike and I'm like, I love it. I want to buy it right away.
Okay.
But I think if you're a person that likes to try lots of things, give yourself some time to do this. You know, go visit different shops, take a notebook with you, write down, you know, bikes that you liked, bikes that you didn't like,
Hmm,
things that you like about different bikes. So that way you can really make the most informed decision possible. Um, yeah, but I really recommend doing the pre-research. So figuring out, you know, the shop that you're going to has these 3 bikes that you probably want to try. The other thing to know is bike sizing can be really wonky.
okay.
Some bikes have like a numerical sizing system that you'll see like 48, 52, 54, 56.
Yeah.
And that number can be a little bit arbitrary.
What is it trying to be? And are there
Typically,
okay, go ahead.
typically it is a specific measurement of the bike that indicates how big it is.
Okay,
It's the seat tube measurement or the down tube.
okay.
Um, but
Which
a
would be
50,
is that why there could be a range? Because you could raise and lower the seat?
no,
Okay,
basically it's going to be from like the solid part of the bike down to the bottom bracket.
okay,
Yeah. However, a 52 in a specialized is not necessarily going to be the same as a 52 in a Trek and a 52 in a Surly,
okay,
because they all have like different measuring points and different measuring specifications.
okay.
So it can be used as a good general
Starting point?
estimation, a good starting
Okay.
point. And again, that's where that online research comes in. So some brand, nearly every brand is going to have a size chart, and it'll
Mhm.
say, extra small is good for, 4'11 to 5'3. Small is good from 5'2 to 5'5. And the reason why there's that overlap is because everybody's built differently.
Yeah.
You and I could both be 5'1", but my legs are much shorter than your legs. And so I'm going to need a smaller bike than you will.
Yep. Are
So
there
go ahead.
what were you going to say? Finish. You
Oh,
finish.
I was just going to say all of that to say, you really just got to put your leg over the bike and see if it fits or not.
Are there any measurements of your own body that you should have handy when you go into the store?
Mm,
If you haven't done this research or you really aren't sure or you're like on the line for some of these sizes, like an inseam or a
an
leg
inseam can,
hip
an
ring.
inseam can definitely be helpful.
Okay.
Um, you know, and I think we've talked about, and we'll definitely talk about this during the bike fit conversation. But there's so many things on a bike that can be moved up and down and front to back to accommodate like kind of those
Mhm.
those micro adjustments.
Okay.
But in general, I think knowing your height, knowing your weight, or the weight of what you intend to carry is kind of the good starting point.
Okay.
But what I was going to say is that even when you go to a shop and you're like, cool, I think they carry Salsa and they carry Cannondale and they carry all the brands I'm looking for, they might not have the exact bike that you're looking for in stock to
Mhm.
try out,
Yep.
which is like endlessly frustrating, but also it makes sense because every bike shop can't stock every model in every size.
Well, it's
So it
very
might
rude of
take,
you to assume that the whole world is not built for me very specifically.
I know, right?
Okay, fine.
Hey, Ellen, quick pause on the thing we're actually talking about to talk about something that's really, really important. Did you know that All Bodies on Bikes podcast is actually part of the All Bodies on Bikes nonprofit?
Are you saying that everything we do is about making the cycling world more inclusive and more welcoming for everybody?
That's exactly what I'm saying. And one of the best ways to support that work is by becoming a member. We have individual memberships, we've got bike shop memberships, we've got industry memberships, we've got it all.
Any membership helps fund inclusive events, education, and advocacy, and it keeps this podcast going. Plus, members get some pretty great perks like exclusive swag, industry discounts, and more.
So if this community means something to you, which we really hope it does, we would love to have you join us as members.
You can learn more, and you can join us at allbodiesonbikes.com. And now, back to the episode. What were we even saying?
Sorry. Anyway, it might take going to a couple different shops to
Mhm.
figure out to actually like get on the specific bike that you want to try.
Well,
But I think, in general, start broad. If you're a medium, start with the mediums and then dial in from there.
got it.
And remember that so many things on a bike can be changed to make it fit more comfortably.
And that
But
is what we'll talk
if
about next week.
exactly, exactly. I was gonna say if the bike is like way too big or way too small, you
Mhm.
can't fix that. So
Are there
getting
any
that part.
tells? Like, how do you kind of know it's like this is beyond big or this is too small? Is there I know, like, if I've had on, if you're on a bike that's really too big, you're just going to feel so stretched out. But is
Yeah,
there anything
exactly. You're gonna
else
be
that
so
can I
stretched
keep
out.
worry about
The
outdoors?
other thing, yeah, is when you swing your leg over the top tube, if it is like if you can't stand comfortably over it
Mhm.
without like getting real intimate with your private parts, that's a good indication the bike's the wrong size.
Okay.
Especially for shorter people. I'm only 5 foot 5'1" on a good day. Sometimes it is a snug fit, and you just gotta weigh. Is this going to be a problem or not? And without getting too technical, for like a mountain bike that I'll be getting on and off on frequently to like get around features,
Yeah.
it's more important that I can stand comfortably
Sure.
versus my gravel bike, which it's like if I get off the bike, I'm not going to be standing over the top tube for an extended period of time.
Oh, that makes a ton of sense.
So,
Okay.
yeah,
Let's talk. Oh, I wanted to ask before we get off of kind of the local and shopping around bit. I love what you said about how you're going to have this relationship with a bike shop.
yeah,
How important is kind of knowing if they do maintenance or not? If you,
I think it's huge. Yeah,
yeah.
especially if you're buying a brand new bike, a lot of shops will offer, a free initial tune-up.
Mhm.
Bikes have parts that stretch out and they need to get worn in. And so oftentimes bikes will have you come back in after your first 100 miles just to adjust things and make sure everything's working properly.
Okay.
And then it's always helpful if you bought the bike at the same shop as you're having work done, because they'll recognize it and you'll be able to say, hey, I bought this 6 months ago and this weird thing's happening. And Yeah, I think pretty much every bike shop that I know of that sells bikes also does service. And that
Okay,
includes places like REI.
sure.
Yeah.
I think it's
Not Walmart.
I was gonna say it's probably anywhere that is actually like ready for recreation slash bikes.
Exactly.
Walmart is, and I will say, and this is kind of true of any big box, their specialty is not bikes. They are often just hiring a person who knows how to hold a wrench to put these bikes together, following the instructions on the page. That I think comes with some inherent risks. So just
Yes.
be aware. Like I love that we want to try to be some like budget inclusive. There are going to be some great bikes at Walmart. I would say try to find a local mechanic who you also trust. And if
Exactly.
anything feels funny or makes noise in a way that you
Or
don't know
feels
about,
loose.
or something's loose, take it into a bike mechanic.
Yes.
Yeah. Not that you can't get a good bike at Walmart, just that
Yes.
you gotta have that in your brain that you might be spending another $100 sooner than you expected.
Yes.
So,
Which is actually a really good point as far as preparing to shop for a bike.
hmm,
Budget is a really big
yep.
consideration. The first time I went shopping for an adult bike and I saw the price tag said $600, I about pooped my pants.
Hmm.
And that would be like really hard to find nowadays. And so making sure that you're prepared for what the sticker price is going to be, and then taking into account additional accessories that you
Hmm.
need. Like you need a pump, you need a helmet, you need a lock. So putting aside a little bit of extra money in your budget for those things. If you plan to ride at night, lights, reflective gear, things like that.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah, all really good points.
yep,
That gives us a good segue though into secondhand shopping and shopping online, because there are some really good direct to consumer brands that are like kind of like you mentioned with Nargo Bikes, I think in our little preview episode, but it's like there are different options all around.
yes,
Secondhand, a lot of times, like I know in Kansas City, there's a couple of secondhand shops too. So
yeah.
what should we know? What should we be thinking about as we go into somewhere that has pre-owned, pre-loved bikes?
They are oftentimes much more affordable.
Okay.
Um, and so I always, especially for folks who are on a tight budget, or maybe not sure if they're really going to like cycling yet,
Hmm.
check out a used bike. Community cycling centers, they're often nonprofits that take in donations from the community and fix them up, are a great place to start. And you're going to get a bike for a couple $100 versus a couple $1,000. So that can be a great place to start. Same thing, go in ready to test ride. But be prepared for a little bit different experience. Typically, those places are staffed by volunteers. And so just be ready accordingly.
Sure.
Um, Other secondhand stores, or secondhand places, Craigslist, Portland still has a very robust secondhand bike sales on Craigslist.
Hmm.
Facebook Marketplace can be another great place.
Yep.
And kind of my general rule on this is if it's too good of a deal to be true, the bike is likely stolen. Um, you know,
Ah.
there's a there's a site called I think it's called Bicycle Blue Book. It's basically like the Kelly Blue Book, but for
Okay.
bicycles, and it'll give you an idea of what your bike should cost as a used bike. And so that can be a good kind of general frame of reference of like, is this bike appropriately priced or is this bike way too low?
Hmm.
And if you come across one that like seems like an incredible deal, there is a website called bikeindex.org, where, side note, go register your bikes right now. Everybody should register all of their bikes on Bike Index. And then, God forbid, something gets stolen, you can mark it as stolen. And then, when you're shopping for a bike, or if the police are trying to reunite bikes to their owners, you can check the serial numbers and see if something is actually stolen.
Good to
That should
know.
be another thing to keep a lookout for on used bikes is serial numbers. If the serial number has been like scratched out or is unidentifiable, that is a red flag. Don't buy that bicycle.
Fair enough. All good points and things I
Yeah,
have not considered.
yeah.
Okay.
Can we talk real fast about the online secondhand marketplace?
Yes, please.
So this is a fairly new arena, but one of the coolest sites I've seen is called Upway. Upway.co. And full disclosure, I did a content deal with them on Instagram. You can go see those deals on my page, but I actually used them. I sold a bike to them, and it's really cool. It's all used e-bikes. Every bike that gets sent to them goes through like a 50-point inspection, and they've got all types of e-bikes. They got cargo bikes, mountain bikes, road bikes, gravel bikes. And that can be a good way to get an e-bike for much less, and also just keep things in the circular economy.
Yeah.
Bikes end up in landfills way too often, and they don't necessarily need to.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I think also helps with the price point. They're specific to e-bikes, is what you said.
That's correct.
Yeah, so that can obviously be a kind of a much bigger price tag than you might have wanted, even though it could really open up your cycling world. So I love that they're in helping in that way too.
Yes. And one other thing that might be a little bit controversial, but you can think about some creative financing. And I'm not saying put it on a credit card, but like for my first bike that cost, I think $1,700, I actually took out a personal loan from my bank. And
Okay.
so it had a fairly low interest rate. This was a big purchase for me. And so I took out a personal loan to pay for this bicycle.
Hmm.
And for some folks, that might be the way to go. I think a lot of us balk at the price of bikes sometimes, but it's like in comparison to a car and
Yeah.
maintenance and even tires, like it is pennies on the dollar.
Yeah. That's one of my biggest kind of like advocacy hooray topics. If you are going to be using this in a way that helps your health, that helps keep your gas prices down, you wouldn't think twice about your tires on your car need rotating. Oh, that's $1,000. At least hopefully you don't have to think about it. That could also different topic for a different day. But it feels very much in a lot of societies it's like, hey, you have to have a car and you have to keep up all this maintenance, but you wouldn't think twice about some of those big purchases to make your car work. I
Right.
think you can shift that mindset to your bike because it is and can be. We hope it becomes a big part of your life too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. Do you feel more knowledgeable now
I
about how to
do.
shop for a bike?
I feel a
Is
lot
there
more
any
confident.
outstanding questions?
Um, what
Anything we missed?
I just have one. I need you to give the world a pep talk for doing it the first time.
Yes. Okay. I love this. Okay. So you can do it. You are capable. You are wise. You are fully allowed to ride a bicycle, especially if you've been told in the past that you're too heavy or you're too old or you're too short or you're too big. No, that's not true. There is a bike for you. It might take some searching, but you can do this. It can be a little bit scary. It can be a little bit intimidating, but there is a bike out there for you. Look online, find a shop that fits your vibe. We alluded to this earlier, but there are tons of different kinds of bike shops. There's ones that are really focused on racing and going fast. And if you're just getting into cycling and don't intend to race or go fast, maybe don't go to that shop. Find one that fits your vibe. Check out their Instagram, check out their social media, and approach it with a sense of curiosity and a sense of excitement. And yeah, welcome to the cycling world. It's a fun place to be, and there are inclusive communities out there, like All Bodies on Bikes, that are excited to have you.
Woo! I'm inspired. Thank you for that, Marley.
You're welcome. It's like I should be a bike salesperson or something.
Oh, almost something like that for sure is in your future, I feel. Um,
I hope.
I'm sure of it. And okay, so the next step after buying a bike from the shop is getting the right fit, which is what we're going to talk about in the next episode. So I just want to
Yes.
say thanks, Marley. This has been super exciting. What should we be reminding our wonderful listeners about before we head out of here? Should people become a member of All Bodies and Bikes?
Yes, as you hopefully heard during the ad break and did not forward through, I have a bad tendency to fast forward through ads on podcasts I listen to, but you're never going to do that because you're our fans. Become a member. So, All Bodies on Bikes, the organization behind this podcast, All Bodies on Bikes, is a member supported organization. You can join at the free level. You can join at $5 a month, $10 a month, $25 a month, whatever feels good and sustainable to you. And that helps us do programming like this podcast, like chapter rides, like webinars. We have hosted a couple webinars called Biking for Big People, where we talk specifically about buying a bike for bigger people. And yeah, become a member so we can keep doing all those things. And you can do that at allbodiesonbikes.com/members.
I love that.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time, guys.
Bye.